When you come across that person that says that their Airbnb or VRBO calendar is booked out for 6 months or a year or 2 years, something crazy like that, just know that that guy is going to end up losing money, and I'm going to tell you all about why right now. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Airbnb ABCs. For those of you guys that are in the United States, which is the majority of my audience, and you know, it's February to probably the end of March by the time that this gets released, 2023, we are coming out of the end of those winter months, the big slowdown for all short-term rentals, just because, you know, not a lot of people travel in the January, February parts of the year. If you're in a beach market, it's probably even worse because it just really sees a lot of slowdowns. And if you haven't picked up a couple of very low revenue bookings, you might have gotten a snowbird or two. You probably haven't seen much business since maybe the end of the summer holidays, or maybe Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, something like that. If you're like us in the mountains of the Smoky Mountains, or maybe Blue Ridge, or maybe Big Bear, California, something like that, you have probably seen continual bookings, but not nearly the revenue that you see in the summertime. And it basically just covers costs. You might make a little bit of money, but definitely keeps your cleaners employed so that they can, you know, keep on doing their thing. The big news is that revenue is down. The bookings are coming in slower, and people are starting to get that panicky feeling like it's never going to come back. In the couple years that I've been doing this short-term rental business, that's kind of been a thing that happens every year. We get through the holidays, people make a lot of money, it slows down, and people think that it's never going to come back, or people that are in this for their first time think that the business is never going to come back. Along then comes in the guy that says, well, my calendar's full. It's been full for a year or 18 months or however long that he says that he's had his calendar full. His holidays are booked for the next year or two. You know, this just, he comes in and just basically throws like a wet blanket over your entire thing because you think that what you are doing is wrong, that you are not doing the right things in order for you to keep your calendar full and keep making money. So what I'm going to do today is tell you guys why that is the case, and we're going to go over all of the ways that I try to keep my calendar to about a 6 to 8 week window, and the way that I do that based on pricing and minimum stays. So when someone has their calendar completely full, they are likely losing out on a lot of potential revenue because they've probably underpriced their vacation rental for however much it could potentially earn. There might be a reason for that. Maybe the thing is that their property is just not a top tier property. You know, I talk about on this channel all the time about purchasing these top tier properties, these places that people are going to want to go to in the particular region that you're in. For example, if you are in a beach market, they want a coastal feeling vibe. They want that beach home type of feeling. And if you're in a mountain market, the majority of folks are looking for a log cabin that looks like a log cabin, either physically is a log cabin, but just gives off that log cabin in the woods vibe that is very, you know, prevalent among people for wanting to get away and escape into the mountains, into their own little log cabin retreat. The other one that kind of goes in the mountains would be that chalet type of feeling where it's got that alpine feeling to it. A lot of times suited to like ski resorts and things like that. But if someone doesn't have that sort of property, then the one thing that they can use, you know, beyond anything else is price. And, you know, price in the end will end up selling it, whether you get that sold 12 months in advance or whether you get that sold within, you know, the 2 weeks coming up to where you are. They're going to rent the cheapest places first. The other reason why folks may have their calendar booked out, you know, 2 years or a year or whatever, is because they might just be simply underpricing the property that they have. A lot of folks get into this trap when they have owned properties for a longer period of time, like 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years, and they are still under the assumption that the only amount that they are going to be able to get for this is what they were getting 5, 10, 15 years ago. The fact of the matter is that inflation is a real thing. It affects everything from the price of gas in your car to the groceries that you buy at the grocery store, to the price of real estate, to the price to rent a vacation home and rent everything. And as you guys have known, inflation has been out of control lately. And although that will reduce people's buying power, it doesn't affect it doesn't not affect the rental rates that people get on this. So sometimes people will still be using the rates that they were getting 5, 10 years ago, even though they could be getting significantly more. Now this works for them because they may have purchased this home 5 or 10 years ago, so they don't have as much monthly outgo on their mortgage. They might not have to do any renovations because they have done those in the first couple of years, and so now they are able to take in less revenue. That's not necessarily a good thing. It's a great thing if you are a traveler and you can score a deal on a top tier property that's underpriced because of either, willful or, unwillful underpricing of their property. But that's not what we want to do here. What we're looking to do on this channel is try to maximize the amount of revenue that you are bringing in from your short-term rental, because that is the entire name of the game, is making money. So what we do is we try to keep our calendar booked about 6 to 8 weeks out from the date that we are at. What I want to, preface this with is that this is not necessarily my idea. It's, I got a lot of these ideas from Lou Carl and Avery Carl in the short-term shop. That's who I've purchased all my places through, and I highly recommend that you all go in there. They kind of introduced me to this idea, but this is my experience in using this, and kind of how I deploy my different systems, my pricing, my minimum stays, in order to keep this 6 to 8 week window. On that 6 to 8 week window from right now, you should be booked basically solid for the next 6 to 8 weeks, and that's it. If you are significantly booked outside of that window, you are probably charging too little, and you need to raise your prices up in order to pull that booking window back down to 6 to 8 weeks. If you're booked 12, 16 weeks out, you're probably tremendously underpriced. But then if you start getting into the point where you're only booked out 1 week or maybe 2 or 3 weeks, you are probably priced too high, or you're just in a relatively slow period of the season, because this doesn't exactly work in January and February when there is a lot more last minute bookings. But as any rule of thumb goes, there are, some exceptions, and you kind of got to use your own head, and, your mileage may vary. But that is the basic idea of this, is to keep your bookings around that 6 to 8 week window. If you're booked out too far, you are priced too low. If you're booked out not far enough, you're probably priced too high. And what this does is it keeps your revenue up, because you are pretty much charging the maximum that you can reasonably get for the property and still remain booked out to a reasonable amount. In addition, that 6 to 8 week window gives you a lot more flexibility with your schedule. If something comes up, if you need to replace a roof down the road, if you need to put a new HVAC in, if you need to get floors redone, get a deep clean done, your schedule is not just booked out for the next year, where you have no flexibility for you to get these items in and get done. If you want to use the property yourself, if you end up getting a 4-day weekend or a long weekend, or you have vacation days to burn at the end of the year, you can go block those out and go use the property for yourself. And so this gives you not only a maximization of revenue, but it also gives you tremendous schedule flexibility to get other things done in your business or use it for personal use that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do if you had that calendar just completely blocked up. So the way I put this into practice is that I find what I'm going to want to charge for my base price in Price Labs. And if you're not using Price Labs, I highly recommend it. It is a way for you to just sort of automate your pricing so that you don't have to do everything manually. They have so much aggregate data that they use to come up with the prices, and you can tweak the algorithm so that it increases prices, if you have a higher occupancy, lowers prices if your occupancy goes down, adjusts everything automatically for such as minimum stays. There's so much customization that I just highly recommend it. But the way that you come up with that base price, in my opinion, they have tools on here that will help you, and that can also be of use to you. But I look where my cabin is, and I start putting in dates, and I'll put in dates in the time frame that I'm looking for. I also use seasonal profiles on here, and that's something we can get into in a different video, but it just sections out parts of the year. So if I want to set my prices really low in January and February, that doesn't affect my prices in June and July, which I want to be much higher. I look at the comps in the date range that I'm looking at. I'll look at their weekdays. See, I'll select a set of weekdays, see what that price goes for per night on Airbnb and VRBO. I'll select some weekends, and I'll do that for several different things and give me an idea about where my pricing can be in the general area that I'm in. And so then I'll just take that, I'll stuff that into Price Labs, it'll spit out all the numbers that it's going to use, and I go from there. Anytime that I put a new property in service, this is exactly the steps that I use. I see how the bookings are going. If things are coming in very slow for the time period that we're in, if we're midsummer, I put a new property on, I got a blank calendar, and I'm only getting a trickle of bookings coming in, I know that that price needs to come down. And I can even get aggressive with the pricing decreases where I'm doing maybe $10 a day on the base price coming down. But it's again, you have to use your head in do things and then look at the result and see what that's doing for you. If I put that up and I'm getting 4 or 5 bookings right away, the price has to go up immediately. And you just kind of dial it in, sort of like an artilleryman dialing in artillery. You walk that in to the point where you are consistently booked at like 6 to 8 weeks out, and you can keep your calendar that full and try to get the most revenue out of it. Another thing that I do in order to kind of influence my calendar, keep that booking window, that 6 to 8 weeks, but also maximize my revenue, especially for folks that want to book farther out. Those folks are going to end up paying a premium, and that is already accounted for in Price Labs. They have far out pricing, which means that they are farther out down the calendar, and it automatically adjusts for this. Some, a couple months out might be 11%. 4 or 5 months out might be 20%. 5 or 6 months, 7 months out might be 25%. And so it already accounts for that in its pricing. But what I do is I adjust my minimum stays. These are for 2-bedroom, 2-bath and a 3-bedroom, 2-bath property. I just use the same for all of those because they're sort of equivalent. For my default settings all the time, I do a 3-night minimum stay for everything. Weekdays, weekends. That's the default setting across the calendar. For my last minute bookings, that's anything within 15 days. That changes to 2 nights on the weekdays, 3 nights on the weekends. And the weekend nights being Friday and Saturday. So you can, if you book Friday, you have to book Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. If you book Thursday, you only have to book Thursday night and Friday night. Okay, it's whenever the reservation starts. When we start getting into farther out, and that's going to be outside of 90 days, the minimum stays go down to 3 for the weekdays, 4 for the weekends. And, that just kind of keeps the folks that want to pay more, that want to pay higher, it gets that calendar filled up with much higher rates, maximizes my revenue. But as things get back towards the date that we're in now, inside the 2-week window, it reduces my minimum stays to try to encourage bookings in that last little bit of time. I also have in there that if we have any type of what they call orphan gaps of 2 nights or less, no matter where it is on the calendar, it automatically reverts that to a 2-night minimum stay. For any time that I have holidays, I always make sure that I set that so that we cover the entire holiday weekend, such as like 4th of July, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, things of that nature. And I will also block off some of those dates until they are much closer in so that people are will pay higher prices for those holidays in order for us to maximize our revenue. Because again, guys, if you're a host here, we are trying to maximize the revenue that we can get out of these without price gouging people. I'm not going to go nuts, but I am going to try for myself and to help you guys maximize the revenue that you guys are getting out of these short-term rentals that cost $500,000, million, $1.5 million. So guys, if this video helped you out today, hit the thumbs up button for me. That really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. Hit the subscribe button down below. If you guys are looking into getting into Airbnb hosting, I'm going to leave a link in the description that will bring you to Airbnb through my affiliate link. I will get a small commission for that. Doesn't cost you anything. So if you are looking to sign up, use that link down below. Help me out, and I will continue to help you guys out. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next one.